Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon. It is Shirley with Spirit of the Matter. And as it, since the Libra eclipse, it has become a little bit of a tradition that I will have a black screen video. And I like this tradition. Basically, in around the 2006, 2007, when I was doing a little bit of just recording my own voice singing. I did not have any proper camera stuff, and so there would be black screen because I would put audio, and then I would put it with video and black screen. So much so that somebody, when I asked people, "What do you think about me?" Or "What comes to mind when you think about me?" one of the people that I was in contact with said black screen. And I was half offended and half like, yeah, he's right. They don't see my face. Um, so, um, but this is just, it's just night and so on. And what I want to come forth with is something to do with the April 8th eclipse and energy. So, if you've been watching me, you've been hearing a lot when I say they're gonna know what's energy. The whole world's gonna know what's energy. And I want to tell you those things, and you can take it as a quasi channeling, quasi telepathy kind of a thing, kind of a video that I haven't done in a while. So, this is not me channeling right now, but more sharing with you information that I got through my exposure, okay, to energy. And you can, see it how you want to see it. One of the things that came forth in the last at least half a decade, and we're talking about 2019, half a decade, and people I met, whether in the psychology field or in academia, and all of them also have other roles and titles, better known and lesser known. And so when the nervous system operates in such a way that when you are around certain people, certain places, then you are exposed to their nervous system. Okay, it's just how nervous system works. It's also how we align ourselves in the experimentation when they let people walk randomly in the room, and then after a couple of times they stop colliding in each other. It's just nervous system is how we operate, and when you're open to more like channeling or telepathy, then you received such information. So the information that was running alongside the nervous system, as of around 2019, I ran into it, a lot of people way before that, had to do with, how should I say it, the energy of using those nervous system accessed by various people. Okay, so delivering knowledge and information through the nervous system, and this to people that don't know what energy is can look like they are going crazy. Okay, whereas if you know the nervous system, you understand how nervous systems operate, and if you know a little bit about channeling, you already begin to have good information. I spoke about some of it on the last video, but I want to be more specific. Certain things came to do with rituals to do with children. And I don't know if those were religious rituals. The word sacrifice came, okay, so sacrifice. I was shown like trees that you cut the tree when it is young. And that was like either in those places, or those were analogies to some rituals in your children. Later, I would learn from a testimonial of survivor of projects of expandable children that certain children were kidnapped, or sometimes not even registered at birth. And what would happen is that it was possible to kill these children. Another thing I ran into was energies that were coming from specific places. And here I want to be cautious, because I don't know. It's not about a specific place, but it's about an operation, and those had to do with medicine and medical warfare. Okay. And there was one person, a psychologist that I was talking with, and he couldn't say to me exactly, but I asked him, am I seeing things? Because he told me, I see things that are murderous, and I don't know if it is from my life, from your life. And I asked him about this. I said, could it be like a past life, what I see, all these wars, all these things, but especially things to do with the medical warfare? And he was very angry, and he told me, this life, in this life. Um, it was, of course, very terrifying, and those things had to do, again, it's not medical experimentation, because the premise of an experiment is that you don't know what the outcome is. Here I'm talking about warfare, so basically use of hospitals at war. But it's not just like you see like in the Middle East and the Shifa hospital, because maybe it is, but we don't know. But it's more than, like guerrillas hiding in a hospital, and then the hospital is bombed. I'm talking about literally like kidnapping children, people, and those things occurring. And this psychologist told me in this life is can be, because he couldn't speak, and I don't know what his role was in this. Okay. um, but or why was it just exposed to this, like I was in the nervous system, or did he have a role there? um, and so stuff to do with medical welfare, stuff to do with rituals to do with children, or sacrifice of children. And again, I don't know if it's like what religion, or if it's religious or something like that, or I have no idea. Um, and the more things to do with that energy. Okay, I was literally shown like MK Ultra and the Alice in Wonderland, like the rabbit hole, and I have no idea from these things. Um, so I know a little bit that MK Ultra was like a use of a psychic realm in warfare. Okay. Um, but now that I was walking around Beersheba, and I see MK, and I see ultrasound, so MK ultrasound, and the painting of a penis, and the eclipse of April 8 is going to be around like the penis of the ram, something like this. So this is Lado's stories, not Lado's is not stories, like Lado's prediction, because she looked at the eclipse. But I see the visuals. Okay, so you see something to do with MK Ultra, but there's a lot use of the penis, like literally the painting of the penis. The letter 7 is Zain, which basically is also penis, and is also 7th of October is the letter Zain in Hebrew, which means a penis. So a lot of uses of the imagery of a penis, and penis is associated with Mars, which rules Rahu, and the eclipse of April 8 is on the penis of the ram. Those people that plan these things, they know the occult. It's not like they know the occult, they know the versions of the occult that are a little bit of inverted. Okay. And so I just couldn't help but thinking, today I've been seeing this ultrasound, and then you see MK. So you don't have like MK ultrasound. You're gonna see MK, MKM, MK, MK, MKK, and K is also associated with Aries, in Aries, and then you see ultrasound. So MK ultrasound. There's a lot. There's the experience to do with like the experience of the Nova Party, and the use of the imagery of the penis, which is basically the penis of the ram. And again, like people who know like this stuff of occult maybe know more, but those things were coming up for kind of like half a decade before I saw like the graffiti on the wall. and I didn't know what to connect them with. But I didn't understand like how does it make any sense. Um, I want to know about more things that were coming up. Um, so definitely stuff to do with wars, like a world war, yes, absolutely. But it doesn't mean it's a timeline. It doesn't mean that the timeline cannot be intercepted, and so on and so forth. In fact, the only reasoning of sharing this information is to not have a doom and gloom, but more like here are the points of interferences. And so those are the ideas, those are the things that we're seeing. And basically what those energy interferences and the entire thing is to get people in general to place more energy in the stories of their fears than in the stories of their vision. Okay? And I've been talking about this earlier. It was a strong vision story. But I also want you to understand that a lot energy is invested to get people to invest in their stories of their fears more so than in the stories of their vision. It only clarifies the vision. The more somebody is invested in the stories of their fear, the more the ridicule of the stories of our fears is exposed, by the way. And that's something to keep in mind. Okay, war is ridiculous in essence. And so other things that began to come up more in 2021, 2022, but particularly, 2021, 2022. Here the energies were more of, and I was in between houses then, the energies were more of clarity of the sight, and that of course has to do with eclipses. There was a conversation around something like after Germany post World War II had to pay kind of like shilumim to the Jews. Okay, so there was a story about a certain nation having to pay such shilumim like Germany. I don't know if that's something that is predicted, is that something's going to happen. But one thing I saw when I was in the Netherlands, when I was in Amsterdam, was that the people that will have no identity card would be best for them, which seemed crazy, okay? Because when you are, let's say, in between countries and in between houses, the most important thing is the papers. But when you talk about like digital ID or ID that is like with your facials or with your fingerprints and so on, then letting loose on the identity card, on the papers of identity, can even become better or even crucial. And now I was shown that there would be many, many more refugees. And then, of course, the war in Ukraine broke, which I thought, oh, it's the war in Ukraine. Something came up with Iran and Israel around 2019. I'm not sure what or why. And another thing that I was shown is that there is more oil streaming freely than we knew. Okay, so oil, oil and fire. Okay, so this can be the situation. This is what can be for around April 8th. It doesn't mean it will happen in the eclipse, but I guess if I take the story of that Lada mentioned around the whale and the person in the whale and Nineveh, is basically there's going to be some sort of a warning, or somebody might play the role of the messenger that will have to say something that is warning, where here is a point of interference. If you religiously would say repent, but another way to look at it secularly, which is important to look at these things secularly as well. And then I take out like religious narratives, not because I don't respect people who think in other narratives, is because we are going towards a secular world. There is a reason we are kicking out fundamentalism, okay? And so many people have religious traumas, and I'm trying to make my channel more and more inclusive, and inclusive towards people with religious traumas. And so if you take it, there are points of interferences in every timeline. The April 8 eclipse, I think, is a big point of interference that we have. Is let's take the word conspiracy theory out of the discourse and allow various narratives that we haven't been including in the discourse, allow stories that's been running around to receive a truth value of that can be something that happens. How do we look at the world if that is true? So this would go more to pragmatism. What is the implication of this being true? Okay. And this is something we're going to have to do with things like MK Ultra, with things like hypothesis that there is more peace going around economically and resource-wise than it seems. The two nations that seem to be at war, tearing up at each other, actually are not at war at all in terms of resources, and they may even have hidden agreements, okay, regarding to all nations. When we talk about fluoridization and defluoridization of the water, and all these things that people are like, oh my gosh, this is far-fetched. Well, not if you actually listen to the scientists, not if you actually listen to Feynman, not if you're actually seeing what's happening in Africa or wherever they defluoridize the water, not if you understand what is fluoride, okay? So, and I talked about this in my previous video. And what I see with the oil and the fire is that some oil resources can go on fire. They can also be nuclear. Alternatively, some fire around oil. This has already happened in 7th of October in 73, oil crisis. But there was leakage in some oil pipe in the Arafat region, according to people, just people living there. Okay, so it's not insider information, it's just Facebook. Okay, you can say this is bogus, but there was definitely some sort of a leakage. Nobody was talking about this. Only the people, and we cannot argue that fire did not break up. So it can be anywhere from there is a fire breaking up, there is a war, there's a conflict breaking out, and it has to do with oil, to literally an oil storage is lit on fire, to something nuclear. But this is where the point of interference comes in. And when I take it from Lada Luncheva's view of the eclipse, is that this is not, hey, this thing is going to happen. Hey, we're going to have another Chernobyl and stuff like that. It's more like, hey, there is a point of interference here. Not only there is a point of interference, there is a point of interference in which those things can be intercepted. This eclipse happens on a constellation that's called Andromeda. And Andromeda is about reconciliation. So I'm not going to say there's going to be peace agreement, because it will take time. But definitely we have a lot of points of interferences when it comes to medical warfare, when it comes to denuclearification, of course, but also when it comes to war involving the marginalized or marginalized societies washing. Okay, if you get the washing that's being done around LGBTQ, around even women's rights, children's rights, around minorities and the story of the oppressed, um, if you get the washing that's being done, then that's a point of interference. Okay, that story of that fear is no longer holding on to your strategy, to your energy, and you're investing the energy in the right places for you, because the stories of the fears, they're being told, and at the same time people are being diverted by, kind of like impressive filmmaking, impressive art, and so on and so forth, kind of algorithm that takes you away from the dread that is serving perhaps to divert your mind. So you would look at here, look a nice bird while they are doing atrocities in other places. That being said, there are many points of interferences. Okay, so a good point of interference is to be able to hold that a certain phenomena can be addressed with various points of view, and to get at the essence of the truth in a way that doesn't trigger your traumas. For example, I spoke about kind of like the mental health, and for April 8th, if the MK Ultra here that's happening, and the energy thing, what people are going to experience is not just something that happens on like a physical level, but a lot of it, and this was also true for 7th of October, very likely for other regions, just people don't talk about this, because people are afraid to talk about what's not just purely physical. And so in whichever way is more accessible for you, okay, is more accessible for you to hear about housing first and open dialogue as it originally was practiced, and the understanding that no, you are not imagining. Is it more accessible to understand that PSYOP is also targeting the nervous system, and that doesn't have to be physically done when a person's physically in the place? Is the language of psychic attack more available to you? Well, for sure you need to know that beta blockers is not what you're dealing with. It's not what's going to help you. That psychosis is not enough explanatory force for the ontological unit. It is the phenomena, whether you call it psychic attack, whether you call it psyop, whether you call it interference in the nervous system, okay? And any one of these words can trigger another trauma. So whether it's trauma from the mental health or trauma from the religion, okay, they said, oh, psychic attack is something that they say that the Satan is doing, and I'm not religious, and because I had so-and-so happen in church. Okay? The essence of the phenomena, okay, to quote Feynman on this, it's not about what's the name of the phenomena, okay, it's not about, you tell a story about the bird, his father took him to see a bird, and he says, Father, what's the name of the bird? He says, in Chinese, it's so-and-so, and in the many languages of the bird. There's nothing going to tell you about the bird. Well, you got to see it, the bird. Just look at how it flies, look at its colors, look at the way that it behaves. This is the essence of the phenomena. Because the essence of the phenomena, the agency, your decision-making, your sense of presence in your body, okay, is being in a point where you become aware that that being present in your body is not the normal phenomenon for everybody. That making a decision and feeling and the experience of consciousness is altered. Okay, so there's a lot of early learning in that, where it can be quite creepy, but also understanding that whichever you name this phenomena, yes, No doctor can name it for you. No rabbi or priest or imam can name it for you. No scientist can name it for you. Okay? It's you discovering your sovereignty and understanding what's happening. Yes, observe information, but understand that when a solution is being offered to you, this solution was orchestrated. The problem was orchestrated so that this is the solution that's offered to you, and on every level of existence, you basically are around April and around the cycle of eclipses in Aries. You're basically making an act of sovereignty to define yourself by yourself. Okay, this is where I go to the Tom Jacobs teaching of the solar plexus chakra and the I alone define myself. Okay, I alone define myself. I alone say who I am. I alone define myself by myself. Okay, nobody can do that for you because that's the core. Okay, the sun exalts in Aries, and this is the set of eclipses that we have. And these are great teachings, and you can take it also from the Lada Sheva. I am, okay, the I am affirmation, which is a good tip, but also the important notion of I alone define myself by myself. I alone say who I am. I say yes, no, and maybe as I see fit. I alone define who I am. So those are kind of like the chakra affirmations of Tom Jacobs, that they are very useful. You can watch them on Tom Jacobs' channel or tdjacobs.com. And again, I get no dividends from that. These are like stuff that I find useful, that I ran into. So if you only take that, okay, if you only take that the essence of the phenomena, you're going to name it how you're going to name it, you're going to experience it how you're going to experience it, but the important thing is you're going to take the agency in defining it for yourself and in asserting your course of action. Okay, not the doctors, not the rabbis, not the astrologers, not the psychologists, not the psychiatrists, and not the scientists. Your course of action. Okay, there's also Chiron in Aries, where nobody's definition of you is quite fit. It's you that have to define you, and there's a wound to it. And a part of this wound on April 8th is going to be those very weird interferences in the agency, in the I am, where you're going to hear orders or things. I can tell you around 7th of October, I speak locally, I'm sure that it happened also in Palestine and Gaza. I'm sure it happened in Maui. I'm sure it happened in both Russia and Ukraine, happening in Congo, for sure happening in Congo, especially with people that are like, most of them are not here, making YouTube channels speaking English right now. And other places, in Africa, and other places that are more close to the world. And that was the case, that people that did not at all have any psychic alternatives experiences began to hear kind of orders or stuff like that. Whole villages heard kind of like psychic stuff, and that was very weird. For people who had no experience whatsoever with channeling, with alternate state of consciousness, for them it was a first. So for many people, MK Ultra South, it means also these things. Okay, I'm a Me Too veteran. Part of why I didn't litigate, because I wanted to address these things, and I needed the buffer of science and the buffer of social enlightenment, buffer of many things to begin to address that and to understand more about this myself. Especially so, I was writing a thesis about philosophy of medicine and applied science, and I noticed that scientifically, if a person comes to the ER and you have to save their lives, there are 1,500 diagnoses for every symptom that they come with, which means that unless you are some kind of a channeler, there's no chance you're going to treat them right. And I understood them more and more, and I got to meet the doctors, I got to meet people that were receiving information other than that, and they were from various genres and various places. For every person, for every Van Nuno, there is a person who is actually working on designing a 7th of October, okay? And or designing, what happened in Gaza, whatever, whichever way is easier for you to see it. Also politically, because what we are asked to do is to look beyond nationalism. And this doesn't mean you can be a complete patriot, but to analyze the situation, you have to look beyond nationalism to see what's actually on, okay? And beyond even the war against fundamentalism. It's not that there aren't nations. It's not that there isn't fundamentalism. It's you have to see beyond these levels of analysis, because those conflicts are being triggered so that people will get involved in this chaos and forget to center themselves, and so put the energy where they shouldn't be putting the energy, or put too much energy in those other places, or that they will think about the kidnapped people from my nation, from this in this place, rather than expandable children, and these kidnapped people being a study case of a very large and worldwide large in study case of expandable children, kidnapping of children, ritual sacrifice of children, but also child trafficking and so on and so forth. Children used to trade, children used other things, and children used as spies, as funny as it sounds, because I talked about it as a card of trust. Then you can say, this person is slept with this and that child of this person, but of course that person, president, your colonel, your Supreme Court judge, they would not have access to be even close to their position unless they could be extorted. Any pedos, any non-pedos in the upper echelons, highly unlikely, structurally, okay? So this is what this April 8th thing, if you're expecting the April 8th to be something, it's just, this happens on the physical level, not only, and if we discuss the fact that science does not operate only on the elements that you think of. To build a bridge, all you need is mechanical physics, okay? The mechanical physics. To travel to another galaxy, quantum physics becomes more relevant. So to speak about, war in terms of, besieging cities, then people think about, a fence, or coming from the air, or coming from this, coming from that. Nervous system, psychic information is a part of this. Okay? So what we are expecting on April 8th, the interferences that we're expecting, and the ways to try and get people into their fear stories, they also have to do with those levels, so those energy levels. And this, to me, when I say MK Ultra, this is what I mean. Okay? MK Ultra was a US project, and I'll tell you that. Everybody can say it's a US, it's a this, it's a that. In essence, strip that off the name of the nation. Okay? Remember this Californication song, okay? Psychic spy from China, I don't know, and so on and so forth. It just doesn't have to be from any specific country. The essence is that there are those interferences on that level. If you don't know that, you will think that you're going crazy, and then you will go to a person that, even though it's scientifically proven that you shouldn't be doing that, they will be giving you something that is scientifically proven to kill people, and not in a pleasant way, and call this medicine and warn you that if you don't take it for like the rest of your life, then it's a problem, and they might even want you on psych ward. And so if you don't know that, that's going to be like a pandemic of people hospitalized or going to receive treatment that is not actual treatment, and so on and so forth. So this is